everyone. Myself Aniket Bhattacharya, your educator, will be conducting this video class today. As per the information bulletin published by NTA, the test pattern of the NEET UG 2021 comprises of two separate sections. Each subject will consist of two sections. Section A will consist of 35 MCQs, whereas Section B will have 15 MCQs with a single option correct. Out of these 15 MCQs, the candidate can choose to attempt any 10 MCQs at maximum. Dear students, this is a tough competitive exam and success can only knock your door if you are consistent and dedicated enough towards your dream. So, stay with us, do subscribe, please share the link to your friend. We will try our best to upload the video series on NEET pattern or the test for the NEET 2021. So, starting today with the question which is displayed on the screen. So, here the question number 1. It is written that how many of the following statements are correct for mycoplasma? This is a question coming from the chapter, the biological classification. Okay, so we know that what is actually the mycoplasma? Now, what is the mycoplasma? You know that the mycoplasma is a unicellular organism which is devoid of cell wall. It includes under the kingdom Monera. Now, in this particular question, the statements which are given, that the first one, that's all the members are pathogenic. All the members are pathogenic in animals and plants. Definitely, the mycoplasma comprises of the members which are pathogenic in nature. But this particular statement is considered as a false statement because of this word, that's all. Not all the members of mycoplasma are pathogenic in nature. Okay, so in your NCERT book, it is written most of the members of mycoplasma are pathogenic. That means not all the members of mycoplasma are pathogenic in nature. So it is a false statement. In the next statement, it is written that the cytosol is not protected by any cell covering. What do you mean by the cell covering? The cell covering means something which covers the cytoplasm. That's the cell covering. It includes the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane is a cell covering. It includes the cell wall. The cell wall is a cell covering. It also includes the capsule, which is also the cell covering. Okay. Now, the mycoplasma is a group of organism which devoid of cell wall. Fine. So, the cell wall is absent in mycoplasma, but here it is written it is not protected by any cell covering. So, this statement is also false. Why? Because the plasma membrane is present in mycoplasma. Cell wall is absent, but plasma membrane is present in the mycoplasma. The third statement is that can able to survive in the presence of oxygen. Now, mycoplasma is facultative anaerobic organism. It is facultative. Facultative anaerobic organisms. What is the meaning of facultative anaerobic organisms? It means the organism is aerobic. That means they can survive in the presence of air. but at the same time, when the oxygen is absent, they can also survive. Fine. So as it is a facultative anaerobic organism, that means the organism is aerobic. So they can easily survive in the presence of oxygen. So this is a true statement. In the fourth one, with their own protein synthesis machinery. What do you mean by the protein synthesis machinery? It means they have some cell organelles. You know that the cell organelles which is involved in the synthesis of protein, that is the ribosome. They are the prokaryotic organism, so they have the ribosome. Fine. And with the help of the ribosome, they can synthesize its own proteins. So this particular statement is also the true statement. And the last statement, it is very important. Sensitive to penicillin. What is actually the penicillin? The penicillin is a compound which is obtained from a fungus, that is a Penicillium notatum. Now, what is the mode of action of the penicillin? Penicillin actually break or inhibit the formation of cross-linkage in bacterial cell wall. Fine. Now, we know that the mycoplasma is devoid of cell wall. So, if we apply the penicillin, so the mycoplasma will easily survive because they don't have the cell wall. So the mycoplasma is resistant to penicillin. Here it is written, it is sensitive to penicillin. That means it is also the false statement. So in this particular question, it is written that how many of the following statements are correct? So 1 and 2. So the correct answer will be the 2 statements are correct. Clear? So just move on to our next question. Okay. So this is a second question. In the second question, it is written that find out the odd statement with respect to the given diagram. This is also a question from the chapter Biological Classification, and this is a diagram of cyanobacteria. This is a diagram of cyanobacteria. The cyanobacteria, also known as, you know that it is a blue-green algae. Fine. Now in this question, it is asked that find out the odd statement. That means which statement is not correct for this particular diagram. Okay. So the first statement is that can able to fix atmospheric carbon dioxide. Cyanobacteria or the blue-green algae is a group of photosynthetic organism. They can fix the carbon dioxide and can able to prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis. That means they can able to fix the atmospheric carbon dioxide. This is a true statement. In the next statement, it is written sharing some character with green plants. Definitely, the group of organism given in this particular diagram, that means the cyanobacteria, they have chlorophyll A, and that particular chlorophyll A is very much similar like the chlorophyll A which is present in the plant kingdom. So this is also the true statement. Okay. Now the body is surrounded by the mucilaginous sheath. So in this particular diagram, the blue halos which is present just outside the filament, that's actually the mucilaginous. Mucilaginous sheath. Fine. So this is also the true statement. So obviously the odd statement or the false statement is the statement number 4, where it is written the cell wall is cellulosic. Now, this group of organisms, that is the blue-green algae, considered as cyanobacteria because they have some similarity with bacteria, and this similarity is the cell wall. We know that the bacteria is with the cell wall, which is made up of peptidoglycan. Similarly, like that, the cyanobacteria also have the cell wall, which is made up of peptidoglycan. So, the odd statement with respect to this particular diagram, that the cell wall is made up of cellulose, because we know that the cyanobacteria is with the cell wall, which is made up of peptidoglycan. Clear? So, let's move to our next question. Now, this is a question from the chapter The Plant Kingdom. Okay. So, what is written? The common asexual spore, which is present in the members of algae. We know that the common asexual spore which is present in the members of algae is zoospore. Fine? Is zoospore. So it is asked, you have to find out which of the following statement or which of the following character given over here is true for zoospore. Now the first is that it is a thin-walled structure. Definitely, the zoospore is a thin-walled structure, so it is a right statement. Zoospore is a thin-walled spore. The second statement is that always biflagellated. Zoospore means they can move. Okay, so the zoospores have the ability to move from one place to another, and for the movement they have the flagella. But the number of flagella is not always 2. So it is a false statement. There are many zoospores mainly present in the members of Chlorophyta. They have the flagella, and the number of the flagella ranges from 2 to 8. Fine. There are some zoospores which includes under the group brown algae. They have the biflagellated zoospore. But the members of the green algae, they have the flagella, the number ranging from 2 to 8. So, always biflagellated, this is a false statement. The next one, these are the non-motile spore. No, zoospore means it is a motile spore. So, it is a false statement. Next one, motile and perinating. What is the meaning of the word perinating? Perinating means resting. Fine. If the particular structure is thick-walled, then that particular structure is considered as a perinating structure or the resting structure. Already it is written that the zoospore is a thin-walled structure. It means it is not a perinating structure, so it is a false statement. Next one, motile and endogenous. What is the meaning of endogenous? Endogenous means something which is developed inside a sac-like structure. Fine, that means the endogenous. We know that the zoospores are developed inside a sac-like structure, and this sac-like structure is known as zoosporangium. Zoosporangium. Now, inside the zoosporangium, numerous zoospores are developed. Let us assume these are the zoospores which are developed inside the zoosporangium. So motile and endogenous, this is a true statement. Fine. And the last one, may be haploid or diploid. No, the zoospores are always haploid spore. So this is also the false statement. So the common asexual spore in algae is thin-walled and motile endogenous. So the correct answer will be 1 and 5. Okay? So in the question number 4, it is written, how many of the given features are associated with the word key? Fine. What is actually the key? The key means this is a identification tool. With the help of key, we can identify a particular organism. Now, for key, how many of the following word given in the box is true? The first one is couplet. What do you mean by the couplet? Now, we know that in key, there are several statements which are used as a clue for the identification of an organism. So these statements is like, suppose the plant with flower. This is a statement 1. And the second statement is that the plant without flower. So these two are the contrasting statement. Fine. And these two contrasting statement which is written inside the key is known as couplet. Okay. So the couplet word is applicable for key. The next one, that's the quick referral system. What do you mean by the quick referral system? That means with the help of this, you can easily identify a particular plant. Now, according to your NCERT, the herbarium is considered as a quick referral system. That means the quick referral system is not applicable for keys. The third one, that's the ex situ conservation. We know that the ex situ conservation means if the organisms are conserved outside its normal environment, then it is a ex situ conservation. Botanical garden, zoological garden, all these are the example of the ex situ conservation. So this is also wrong with respect to the key. Next, analytical in nature. Yes, key is analytical in nature. It is written in the NCERT. The key is an analytical device. Now, why key is considered as an analytical device? Because by analyzing all the characters which is written inside the key, we can able to identify an organism. So by analyzing all the character, we can able to organize, we can able to identify the particular organism. So it is analytical. The next one, that's the lead. It is also correct for key. What do you mean by the lead? Lead means in a couplet, the two contrasting statements are written. Fine. And each and every statement is considered as lead. So this one is a lead 1 and this one is a lead 2. Okay. The next one, based on similar character only. No, this is a false statement. Why? Because of this word only. The key is constructed on the basis of similarities and dissimilarities. So here it is written, it is based on similar character only, so it is a wrong statement. And the last one, that's the repository. What do you mean by the repository? Repository means a particular area or the device where the resources are conserved. Okay, so that particular area is known as a repository. So key is not a repository, so it is also the false statement. So how many of them are associated with key? So couplet, analytical and lead. So the answer will be 3. Okay. So move to our next question. This question is coming from the part that's the cell division. Now it is written that how many chromosomes a cell will have at G2 and after M phase respectively if it has 34 chromosomes in the meristematic cells at G1 phase. We know that in a cell cycle, there are different phases such as M phase, G1 phase, S phase and G2 phase. These are the phases of cell cycle. Fine. Now in the question it is written a particular cell with 34 chromosomes at G1 phase. So here the number of chromosome I am writing as C 34. Now it is asked that how many chromosomes are present in G2 and M. In G2 and in M. Fine. Now this is a very tricky question. Okay. Now you know that in S phase the DNA molecule which is present inside the cell get duplicated. Fine. But the chromosome number remains same. Why the chromosome number remains same? Because the duplicated DNA may join or connected with each other with a common centromere. So although the DNA content get doubled, but the chromosome number remains same. So in G1 phase, if there is a 34 chromosome, in S phase, the chromosome number remains same, that is 34, and in G2 phase, the chromosome number remain 34. Now we know that this is a mitotic cell cycle. That means the cell divides by the mitotic division, and we know that the mitotic division is an equal division. So that at M phase the chromosome number remain 34. So the answer will be 34 and 34. Okay. So move on to our next question. This particular question is from the chapter cell the unit of life. The unit of life. This is an example of the diagram based question. Okay. Now, in this particular diagram, there are few words A, B, C and D. First of all, you have to identify A, B, C and D. Then you have to match their function which is given over here. Okay. Now, what is A? A is a endoplasmic reticulum. A is a endoplasmic reticulum. Okay. Next, what is B? B is a Golgi body, GB. What is C? C is mitochondria. It is mitochondria. And the last one, what is D? D is cytoplasm. Cytoplasm. Now, we will see the options. A, the major site of synthesis of glucose. We know that the major site of synthesis of glucose is plastid. So, it is not true with respect to the endoplasmic reticulum. So, it is a false statement. B, performs the function of packaging material to be delivered only intracellular targets. This is the function of the endoplasmic reticulum and it is written just next to the Golgi body. So, this is also the false statement. The third one, site of anaerobic respiration. We know that the mitochondria is a site of aerobic respiration. Here it is written that the anaerobic respiration. So, this is also the false statement. And the D, that is the cytoplasm, which is written that's the main arena of cellular activity. What do you mean by the arena? Arena means this is a platform. Okay, on that particular platform, several metabolic activities are taking place. So, the common platform where several metabolic activities are taking place, that is the cytoplasm. So, here the D, that is the main arena of the cellular activity. This is the correct statement with respect to the diagram. Okay. Now, okay. So, in this question, it is written that the modified stem in grasses, strawberries are concerned with the special function like food storage, vegetative propagation, assimilation, spread to new niches and pollination. Okay. Now, we know that the modified stem of grasses and strawberries are the runner. Fine. So, the runner is not at all involved in the storage of food. It is not at all involved in the storage of food, because if a particular part of the stem which is involved in the storage, that particular part get swollen. So, runner is a long structure with prominent nodes and internodes, where the internodal part, this one is an internode, this one is a internodes, where the internodal part is long. So this is a runner. Fine. So it is not at all involved in the food storage. So this is a wrong statement. Definitely the runner is involved in the vegetative propagation. Okay. So with the help of runner, this group of plant can propagate its colony. The next one, assimilation. Assimilation means the photosynthesis. It is not at all the major part which is involved in the photosynthesis. So it is also the wrong statement. Spread to the new niche. Definitely, what is the meaning of niche? Niche means the area. So with the help of the runner, they can easily spread to the new areas. So this is also the right statement. And again the word perennation. Perennation means resting structure. So runner is not at all a resting structure. So the correct answer will be 2 and 4. So here it is written, that's the option 2. Okay. Now move on to our next question. This is also a diagram based question coming from the same chapter, morphology. Morphology of flowering plants. Okay. Now it is written, choose the correct statement with respect to A given in the diagram. Okay. Now first try to identify that what is A. A is a stem thorn. Or you can say it is a spine which is developed from the stem. Now you have to identify that how many of the following statement is appropriate for the spine which is developed from the stem. Okay. The first statement is developed from the axillary bud. What do you mean by the axillary bud? Let's assume this one is a stem. Okay, this one is a stem and a leaf is developed from this particular stem. This one is a leaf. Now the angle between the leaf and the stem, this is an angle. This particular angle is known as axil. Now if the bud is developed over here, that means if the bud is developed on the axil, this particular bud is known as axillary bud. Axillary bud. Fine. Now in this particular statement it is written that developed from the axillary bud. Definitely the spines are developed from the axillary bud. It is developed from the axillary bud. The axillary bud get modified into spine-like structure. Okay. The next one, it protect the leaf in its bud condition. This is a false statement. This is a true statement, whereas this is a false statement. Why this statement is a false statement? Because we know that if there is a bud and during the developmental stage, the bud is protected by a small leaf-like structure which is known as a stipule. So the stipule is a structure which protects the bud. Here it is written that's the protect the leaf in bud condition. That means spines protect the leaf from the bud condition. This is a false statement. The third one, that's the protect the plant from browsing the animal. Definitely, if there is a spine, so the spine-like structure prevent the herbivory. So it protects the plant from browsing animals. This is a true statement. Always develop from the leaf base. This is the false statement because the spine may develop from any other parts of plant body. It may develop from the stem or the other parts the spine can also observe. Small leaf-like appendages, no, it is not the leaf-like appendages, so this statement is also false. So the correct answer will be that here, this one. All the statements are incorrect except 1 and 3. So only 1 and 3 statements are true, and apart from 1 and 3, all the statements are incorrect. Okay? Now, move to our next question. This is also the question coming from the same chapter, morphology. Morphology. Now, in the box or inside the bracket, there are few plants which are given. Plum, guava, rose, mustard, brinjal, China rose, cucumber, peach and sunflower. You have to identify among this group how many of them with superior ovary. What do you mean by the superior ovary? Superior ovary means if the thalamus is convex, then this particular condition is known as a hypogynous condition. Hypogynous condition. Now, in a hypogynous flower, the gynoecium is situated at the center. So, as a result of that, with respect to the other members, that means with respect to the stamen, with respect to the corolla, with respect to the calyx, the gynoecium is situated always at superior in its position. So this particular condition is known as a superior condition. The ovary is a superior ovary which is found in case of hypogynous condition. So you have to identify among this member how many of them with superior ovary, that means the hypogynous flower. Now the first one is a plum. In plum, perigynous condition is observed. In case of guava, epigynous condition is observed. In case of rose, perigynous condition is observed. In mustard, hypogynous, that means superior ovary is observed in mustard. Similarly like that, the brinjal also with hypogynous flower, China rose also with hypogynous flower, and the rest, cucumber, epigynous, peach, perigynous, sunflower, epigynous. So the answer will be 1, 2 and 3. So the answer will be option 2. So among them, only the 3 members with superior ovary, that means the hypogynous condition. Okay? Now, move to our next question, which is a question number 10. This particular question is coming from the chapter, that's the anatomy. Anatomy of flowering plant. Anatomy of flowering plants. Now it is written that the desert grass often roll their leaves due to the presence of which of the following structure? Now we know that the desert grass is an example of the monocot, and the monocot generally with the isobilateral leaf. What is the meaning of the isobilateral leaves? That means the leaf where both the surface are similar in its morphology. Fine. Now the desert plant, they have the leaf which are isobilateral in nature and with some specialized cells which is present in the both the epidermis. Now if we observed a cross-sectional view of a grass member, we will see some large size cell which is present towards the upper epidermis. Okay, this particular cell absent in the lower epidermis. This particular cell only observed in the upper epidermis. Now, this particular cell which is present towards the upper epidermis, these empty large size cells are known as bulliform cell. Bulliform cells. The bulliform cells are the peculiar character which is present in the desert grass, and these particular cells involved in the rolling of leaves during the desiccation. So in this particular question it is written that the desert grass often roll their leaves due to the presence of bulliform cells, and we know that the bulliform cells are situated towards the upper epidermis. So the correct option will be the option number 2. Now move on to our next question. This is also coming from the same chapter, that's the anatomy of the flowering plant. It is written in a dorsiventral leaves, palisade parenchyma is situated towards. As I discussed in our previous question, that what is isobilateral leaf? Okay. Similarly, what do you mean by the dorsiventral leaf? The dorsiventral leaves are mainly found in dicots, where we can see that both the surface of the leaf are distinct, are quite different from each other. One part that's known as a dorsal part, another part that's known as a ventral part. If the leaves with this dorsal and the ventral part, that particular leaf is known as a dorsiventral leaf. Okay. Now we know that in case of dorsiventral leaf, the mesophyll cells are differentiated into two types of parenchyma. One is known as a palisade parenchyma, which are somewhat elongated structure, and this elongated structure is situated towards the upper epidermis. Upper epidermis. On the other hand, the dorsiventral leaves, that means the dicot leaf, also have some round shape parenchymatous cells, and these particular parenchymatous cells are known as spongy parenchyma. Spongy parenchyma. And the spongy parenchyma is situated towards the lower epidermis. lower in the lower epidermis. In the lower epidermis. Okay. Now here in this particular option it is written that the abaxial surface, second one is the adaxial surface around the midrib and both upper and the lower epidermis. So this statement is a completely wrong statement, because we know that if it is a dorsiventral leaf, the palisade parenchyma is only situated towards the upper epidermis. So this is a wrong statement. Similarly, like that, around the midrib, this is also the wrong statement. So the correct answer will be the option 2, that's the adaxial surface. In botanical term, we can say that the upper epidermis is also the adaxial surface of the leaf. So the upper epidermis, here the adaxial surface means, it means the upper epidermis. It is a upper epidermis. Okay. So move to our next question. This particular question is coming from the chapter that's the sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction in flowering plant. Sexual reproduction in flowering plant. This particular question is from the chapter Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plant. Okay. Now it is written in the question that the point at which funicles touches the ovule is. So, how a particular ovule looks like? Let's see. This is a structure of a typical angiospermic ovule, and these are the cells which is present inside the ovule. Okay. Now, in this particular structure, this part is considered as the body of the ovule. Body of the ovule. The body of the ovule comprises of, this one is a integument, this is a embryo sac, this is a nutritive tissue which is known as a nucellus, okay, so on and so forth. Now, the body of the ovule and this particular structure, that actually the stalk of the ovule, is known as a funicle. Now, what will happen that the funicle, as the ovule is present over here, is curved. That means this is a body, this one is an integument. The integument touched this particular point, and the point where the integument, the particular point where the integument touches the ovule, the body of the ovule, this particular point is known as hilum. So in this particular question, it is written that the point at which funicles touches the ovule is hilum. It is not chalaza, because the chalaza is the back of the ovule. This one is considered as a chalaza. It is not the raphe. Raphe is considered as a arm of the ovule. This is not raphe and this is not the endothelium. What is endothelium? The innermost layer of the embryo sac. That's known as the endothelium. It is a layer which is present in between the embryo sac and the integument. That's the endothelium. So the answer will be the hilum. Move on to the next question. This particular question is also coming from the chapter that is a sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction in flowering plant. The same chapter. Now here it is written that the vegetative fertilization involves the fusion of. What do you mean by the vegetative fertilization? We know that in angiosperms, the fertilization is typically the double fertilization. Let's see. Suppose this one is a embryo sac. This one is a embryo sac, and inside the embryo sac, these are the synergids. This one is a egg. The three small cells which are present in the chalazal side, these particular cells are known as the antipodal cells, and these are the polar nuclei. Okay. So this one is a antipodal cells. This one is a central cell. The central cell with two small nuclei, that's known as a polar nuclei. This one is a egg, and these are these two are the synergids. Fine. Now we know that at the time of fertilization, what will happen? Now at the time of fertilization, two male gametes entered inside the embryo sac. So these are the male gametes. These are the male gametes. Now at the time of fertilization, what will happen? One male gamete fertilize the egg. This particular fertilization, that means suppose this one is a male gamete, which fertilize the egg cell. This particular process is known as syngamy. Fine. On the other hand, the remaining male gamete fertilize the polar nuclei, and this particular fertilization is considered as a vegetative fertilization. So what is vegetative fertilization? Vegetative fertilization means the male gamete which fused with the polar nuclei. Okay, so in this particular question, these are the options. The vegetative fertilization involves the fusion of two polar nuclei, no. A male gamete and synergid, no. The male gametes and the antibiotic cells, no. The nucleus of the male gametes and the secondary nucleus. This is a right statement. Now, what do you mean by the secondary nucleus? What will happen? These two polar nuclei, suppose this one is a fast polar nucleus. Fast polar nucleus. We know that the fast polar nucleus is a haploid nucleus. Now, just before the fertilization, these two polar nuclei get fused. So, this one is a fast polar nuclei. Now, this one is a second polar nuclei. Polar nuclei. These two polar nuclei get fused. These two polar nuclei get fused to form, this one is N, this is another N. So, these two N get fused to form a large size nucleus that's known as a secondary nucleus. Secondary nucleus. The ploidy level of the secondary nucleus obviously will be the 2N. Now, the fusion of these secondary nuclei with the male gametes is considered as the vegetative fertilization. And the vegetative fertilization, we know that results in the formation of a triploid nucleus, which is known as the endosperm nucleus. Okay? So, move to our next question. So, in this particular question, it is written that the female gametophyte are produced from a megaspore mother cell after, and these are the options. Okay. Now, we know that, let's assume this one is a megaspore mother cell. Megaspore mother cell. Now, what will happen? This megaspore mother cell undergoes meiosis division, produce 4 megaspores, 4 haploid megaspores. These are the 4 haploid megaspores. Now, what will happen? You know that these 4 megaspores, out of these 4 megaspores, 3 megaspores get degenerated. Okay? And the remaining one is a functional megaspore. The remaining one is a functional megaspore. So, let us assume this one is a functional megaspore with a single haploid nuclei. Now, what will happen? This functional megaspore first undergoes fast mitosis. This functional megaspore undergoes fast mitosis, produce a 2-cell structure. This one is a 2-cell structure. Now it is followed by second mitosis, it will form a 4 nucleated structure. So here it is a 2 nucleated structure followed by the 4 nucleated structure. It followed by third mitosis, it will form a 4 nucleated structure where the 4 nuclei which is present in the one side and another 4 nuclei is present in the opposite side. Now what will happen among these 4 nuclei? What will happen? One nuclei is migrated towards the center from this pole and another nuclei is migrated from this pole, and now these 2 nuclei are situated at the equatorial region. These 2 nuclei are considered as polar nuclei. Okay, and the remaining 3 nuclei which is present in the pole now get modified into 3 antipodal cells, and these 3 are modified into 2 synergid, and this one is a single egg cell. This one is a egg cell and these 2 are the synergids. Fine. Now this is the structure of mature embryo sac. This is the structure of mature embryo sac. Now the mature embryo sac is developed by a single meiosis and 1, 2 and 3 mitotic division. So the answer will be 1 meiotic and 3 mitotic division respectively. Okay. So move to our next question. This particular question is from the first chapter of the class 12. Here it is written, it is an information based question. Here it is written that which of the following has the longest lifespan? Which of the following has the longest lifespan? The correct answer is people tree, where it is observed that the lifespan is 2500 years. Whereas the butterfly with the lifespan of few weeks, crocodile that's near about 60 years, and the parrot that's the 140 years. So the highest lifespan, longest lifespan observed in case of the people tree. This is the next question. This is a very interesting question where it is written that the meiocyte is observed in all except. Now, what do you mean by the meiocyte? Meiocyte. What do you mean by the meiocyte? Meiocyte means it is a diploid cell. Diploid cell which undergo the process of meiosis. So the cell which undergo the process of meiosis, that's known as a meiocyte. Okay. Now the myocyte is observed in all the organisms where diploid cells are found. So the diploid cells are found in humans. The diploid cells are found in equisetum, it is a pteridophyte. The diploid cells are found in dicots. So the correct answer will be the blue-green algae. This one is a correct answer. Why this one is a correct answer? Because the blue-green algae includes under the kingdom Monera. This one is a unicellular prokaryotic organism and with haploid genetic configuration. So the correct answer will be the blue-green algae. Now move on to our next question. Here it is written that the decapitation process is widely applied in. Now what do you mean by the decapitation? Decapitation means that's the removal of the apical part. Okay. Now let's assume this one is a plant. Let's assume this one is a plant. And we know that the apical part of the plant is occupied by the apical bud. Apical bud. The apical bud, also known as a terminal bud, which is responsible for the growth of the plant. It helps the plant to elongate in its height. Now, if we remove the apical bud, then what will happen? It leads to the formation of numerous lateral buds, and as a result of that, due to the growth of enormous lateral bud, what will happen? The plant becomes bushy. Now the decapitation process is applied to those plants which have this type of bushy habitat. Okay, this type of bushy habit where the decapitation is applied. So in this particular section, the correct answer is it is used in tea plantation. Why decapitation is used in the tea plantation? We know that the tea plant is with a bushy habit. So if we remove the apical bud, so that leads to the development of several lateral buds, which leads to the development of several lateral branches. So the correct answer will be a tea plantation. Clear? So move to our next question. So in this particular question, it is written that the site of perception of light or dark duration are flower bud, mature flower, leaf, shoot apex. We know that the plant can able to respond in appropriate light and appropriate darkness, and this response is considered as a photoperiodism. For doing the photoperiodism, plants have some pigments, and that particular photoreceptor pigment is known as a phytochrome, and this particular phytochrome pigment is present in the leaf. So the site for the photoreceptor, the site for receiving the light is the leaf. It is an area where the plant through which the plant can receive the light. In which of the following reaction the oxidative phosphorylation does not occur? The phosphorylation means the production of energy in the form of ATP. Inside the cell, there are two types of phosphorylation is observed. One is a oxidative phosphorylation, another one is a photophosphorylation. Okay. Now in Krebs cycle, the oxidative phosphorylation does not occur in succinyl-CoA to succinate. Okay, in succinyl-CoA to succinate, the substrate level phosphorylation is observed, but the oxidative phosphorylation observed in all the other places except the succinyl to the succinate. Now move on to our next question. This is also a diagram based question. Okay, in this particular diagram here there are few points, and these particular points are written in such a way that you have to identify these particular structures. Okay, what are these structures? Now D represents the stroma lamellae. Definitely the D is a stroma lamellae. Stroma lamellae. A represents the scattered ribosome which is present in the stroma. This one is A. A represents the scattered ribosome which is present in the stroma. This is a wrong statement. This is not the scattered ribosome, because we know that this is a plastid, and inside the plastid the ribosomes are present in the form of polyribosome, where there is a single mRNA and numerous ribosomes are attached with the mRNA to form a polyribosome or the polysome. So in this particular diagram, the wrong statement is the option 2. Here the A represents the scattered ribosome present in the stroma. A is not the scattered ribosome. A is actually the lipid droplet which is present inside the chloroplast. Okay? Now move to the next question. Here it is written, in the chloroplast the highest number of protons are found in. Now we know that inside the chloroplast, we will see several grana. Each and every grana is made up of numerous thylakoids. Fine. Now if you will see the structure of a single thylakoid, then please observe that the thylakoid is made up of a membrane that's known as a thylakoid membrane. This one is a thylakoid membrane, and inside the thylakoid membrane there is an area, and this particular area is known as thylakoid lumen. Now what will happen at the time of the photolysis of water? During the photolysis of water, the electron and protons are generated. Now the electrons are involved in the electron transport chain, whereas the numerous proton get dumped in the thylakoid lumen, and this particular proton actually involved in the production of the ATP, and this process is known as a photophosphorylation. So in this particular question it is written that in the chloroplast the highest number of the protons are found in, where the highest number of the protons are found, where the protons are deposited, and definitely the answer will be the lumen of the thylakoid. Okay? Now move to our next question. Now, how many different types of gametes are produced from an individual with the genotype AA, capital B, capital C, small d, capital E, capital F, small g, HH, capital I, small I, JJ, KK. Now, there is a formula that 2 to the power n, this particular formula is used to calculate the different types of gametes. Now, what do you mean by the n? The n means the number of heterozygotic combination. Number of heterozygotic combination. Now, in this particular genotype, it is observed that heterozygotic combination is found in capital B, small b, this one capital F, small f, and this one is capital I, small I. So, it is 2 to the power 3, and we know that the 2 to the power 3 is 8. So, this particular organism with this given genotype will produce 8 types of gamete. Just remember the thing, it is not the number of the gamete, this is a type of the gamete. So, this particular individual will produce 8 different types of gametes. Okay? Now, move to our next question. So, this is a next question, and this is from the chapter, that's the strategy for the enhancement in the food production. So, here it is written that the breeding of crops with high level of minerals, vitamins and proteins. This is the information based question, and the correct answer will be that's the biofortification. So, biofortification is a very important technique which is applied in the plant breeding for the improvement of the crop. By the implementation of this particular technique, we can get a plant with high level of minerals, vitamins and protein content. Okay, so the answer will be that's the biofortification. Okay, the rest answers are not at all correct because the somatic hybridization is a technique of the plant tissue culture, whereas biomagnification is actually a environmental issue, and the next one, that's the micropropagation. This is also a part or one type of that's the tissue culture technique. So the answer will be the biofortification. Clear? So move to our next question. Now here it is written that which one of the following is an example of ex situ conservation? Okay, which one of the following is an example of ex situ conservation? Now what is the meaning of ex situ conservation? Now we know that there are two types of conservational approach. One type of conservation that's known as a in situ conservation, and on the other hand the another type of conservation is known as a ex situ conservation. Okay, the ex situ conservation means when a particular animal or plant is conserved just outside their natural habitat. Fine, if the plants or the animals are conserved outside their natural habitat, then this type of conservational approach is known as a ex situ conservation. Fine. So the correct answer will be the seed bank, because we know that in case of wildlife sanctuary, what will happen? The wildlife are conserved in their natural habitat under a protected environment. So that's the wildlife sanctuary. Now it is not the sacred grove, what do you mean by the sacred group? This is also a approach of the in situ conservation where the plants and the animals are conserved on the basis of their some mythological beliefs. So that's actually the sacred groups, and it is not at all the national park, because we know that the national park is also the example of in situ conservation. Okay, so the answer will be the seed bank, because in the seed bank what will happen, the seeds collected from the different areas are gathered and preserved under completely artificial environmental condition. So the seed bank is an example of ex situ conservation. Clear? Now move to our next question, number 25, and this is a question from the pedigree analysis. Okay, so what is actually a pedigree? The pedigree is actually a family tree, and by observing the pedigree we can able to detect the inheritance of a particular disease in that particular family. Fine. Now just to construct the pedigree we are using some sign. By using some symbols we can construct a pedigree. Now you have to find out that which one is a correct symbol with respect to the pedigree. Fine. The first one, the option 1, the mating between the relatives. Option 2, unaffected males. Option 3, unaffected females. Male affected. So this is not the correct answer, because when we are analyzing a pedigree or when we are just constructing a pedigree, the male is denoted as a square. The square represents the male. Fine. And if it is without any shade, that means the unaffected male. And if this particular square is completely shaded, this signifies the affected male. Fine. So here this is not a square. So this particular sign not at all the sign of a affected male. This one is a sign of a affected male. Affected male. So this one is a wrong answer. Fine. Next, this one is also the incorrect answer, because in pedigree the females are denoted by using a circle. Fine. And we know that if it is a female, if the female is affected, then the particular area should be shaded, and if it is unaffected, then the particular area is without any shade. So this is also the wrong answer, because here it is written that is the unaffected female. The female is designated as a sphere. Now the second option is also the wrong answer. Why? Because it is an unaffected male. We know that the unaffected male designated as square. Square means the male, and without any shades, that means this one is a unaffected male. Unaffected male. So this one is also the incorrect answer. So the correct answer will be this one. So this one is a male, this one is a female, and the two lines in between the male and female designates that's the mating between the close relatives. Fine. So the correct answer will be the option 1. Okay. So move to our next question. This is a very nice question. Fine. Here it is written, which one of the following does not differ in Lactobacillus and Spirogyda? Okay. Now we know that the Lactobacillus is an example of a bacteria. And we know that the bacteria includes under kingdom Monera. Whereas the Spirogyda is an algae and which includes under the Plantae. Okay, so basically the question is that what is common in between one member belongs to Monera, that means the prokaryote, and one member belongs to Plantae, that means the eukaryote. Fine. Now it is not the ribosome, because we know that if it is a prokaryote, then we know that if it is a prokaryotes, then we know that the ribosome is 70S type, and if it is a eukaryote, then the ribosome is 80S type. 80S type. Okay, so it is not similar in Lactobacillus and Spirogyda, because the Lactobacillus is an example of prokaryotic organism, whereas the Spirogyda is an example of the eukaryotic organism. Okay, it is not the cell wall, because we know that if it is a prokaryotic organism, then the cell wall, we know that if it is a prokaryotic organism, then the cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. The cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. Okay, and if it is a eukaryotic organism, we know that is a cell wall is made up of cellulose. Fine. So it is not the cell wall. This is not at all the chromosomal organization, because we know that if it is a prokaryotic organism, all the prokaryotes without any chromosomal organization. So the answer will be the cell membrane. The cell membrane is a common feature which is present in both prokaryote and the eukaryote, and the composition of the cell membrane is more or less similar in both prokaryote and eukaryote, because we know that it is a biological membrane. That means in both the group, the plasma membrane or the cell membrane is composed of protein, lipid and protein. Okay, so the answer will be, that's the 26 number question, the answer will be the cell membrane. Okay, so moving to our next question. Now, this is also another informative question or the information based question. Now, here it is written that which is not a mutagen. Okay. Now we know that what is mutation? We know that the mutation means the sudden inheritable change in the DNA. That particular sudden inheritable change in the DNA, that's known as a mutation. And anything that causing the mutation, that's considered as a mutagen. So, mutation causing agents are called mutagen. So the mutation causing agents are considered as the mutagen. Okay. So the mutagen includes any agent which is responsible for changing some part of the nitrogen base present in the DNA. Fine. So hydroxyl amine, definitely it is a mutagen. Nitrous acids, that's also a mutagen. The gamma rays, that's also the mutagen. So the correct answer will be the acetic acid. Just keep it in your mind that we can classify the mutagen into two categories. One that's known as a physical mutagen. That means here several types of rays, suppose gamma ray, alpha ray, X-ray, all UV rays, all are included under the physical mutagen. And the another group is a chemical mutagen, which includes any type of chemical, fine, which is responsible for the change in the DNA. Okay, for any type of change in the DNA, that particular mutagen is known as a chemical mutagen. So here the gamma ray is an example of physical mutagen, nitrous acid and hydroxylamine is an example of the chemical mutagen. So the correct answer is the acetic acid. The acetic acid is not at all a mutagen. Okay. So moving to our next question. Bacteria are not allowed to produce the human insulin by recombinant DNA technology, by RDT, because the genetic code is non-ambiguous in nature. Definitely the genetic code is non-ambiguous in nature. Fine, but this is not at all related with this particular fact. Now that the genetic code is reductant, this is also the incorrect answer. The genetic code is nearly universal. This is the correct answer. Why this is the correct answer? What do you mean by the universal nature of the genetic code? The universal nature of the genetic code means a particular genetic code, or you can say a particular codon, is responsible for coding the same amino acid in all the members of organism. That means if I am talking about that's a CCC, we know that this particular codon is responsible for coding the amino acid proline. Now this fact is applicable for all the group of organisms, then applicable for both prokaryotes as well as eukaryotes. Prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Although there are some exceptions are there in case of mitochondrial DNA, there are some exceptions, but most of the cases it is observed that the genetic code is nearly universal, or you can say it is a universal. So this is the correct answer, that the genetic code is nearly universal in nature. Now, moving to our next question, this is also the question from the molecular biology chapter, molecular biology portion. Now, here it is written that the DNA fingerprinting is based on the principle. Now, DNA fingerprinting. Now, we know that the DNA fingerprinting is a very advanced tool of molecular biology, and by using the DNA fingerprinting technique, we can easily detect or we can easily solve any type of criminal offenses. Fine. Now, the main principle of the DNA fingerprinting is that's the polymorphism in the non-coding sequence. What do you mean by the non-coding sequence? The non-coding sequence means we are talking about the introns. We know that the genome is made up of two portions. One is an exon, another one is an intron. The exon is a coding part and the introns are the non-coding part. Fine. So, non-coding sequence is responsible for this particular DNA fingerprinting technique. Now, what is the meaning of the polymorphism? Actually, in humans, it is observed that the non-coding sequence, that means that introns are of two types. One part of the introns that's known as VNTRS. This is a very important term, VNTRS. What is the meaning of the VNTRS? VNTRS means there is a variable number of tandem repeats. Fine. So, a part of the intron where we can see there is a repetition, and if the size of the intron or if the size of the repetition will vary, then it is known as a variable number of tandem repeat. And by using this variable number of tandem repeat, or by using this particular character, we can establish a very advanced tool of molecular biology that's known as a DNA fingerprinting. So, the DNA fingerprinting is mainly based on the principle that the polymorphism is present in the non-coding sequence in the DNA. Okay. So, the answer will be that is a 3. Okay. Okay. So, this is a next question where it is written that is a cyclosporin A used as immunosuppressive agent is produced from. Cyclosporin A is very often used as a medicine which is involved in the immunosuppression. Fine. It is actually produced from a fungi, and the name of that particular fungi is a Trichoderma polysporum. Fine. So, it is not the Saccharomyces cerevisiae, Penicillium notatum, and the last one. So, the correct answer will be that's the Trichoderma polysporum. From this particular fungi, we can obtain the cyclosporin A. Okay. The next question, the natality refers to. Now, we know that a particular population is actually determined by several types of parameters. Okay, a population with several characters, and among that all the characters, the most important character is known as a natality. The natality means that's the birth rate. On the contrary, if I am talking about the mortality, that means the death rate. So the natality, that means the birth rate, that means the number of the individual will added in the population by the process of birth. That's known as a birth rate. With respect to time, that's actually the birth rate, also known as a natality. Okay. This is the next question. Here it is written that the functional megaspore in an angiosperm developed into. Okay. Now we know that this is a megaspore mother cell. Megaspore mother cell. Now the megaspore mother cell, after meiosis, produce 4 megaspore tetrad. 4 megaspore tetrad. Fine. 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the megaspore tetrad. Megaspore tetrad. Now, out of these 4 megaspore, what will happen? 3 megaspore get degenerated. Fine. So, out of these 4 megaspore, this one, and this one. These are the degenerative megaspore. And the megaspore which survived is considered as functional. Is considered as functional megaspore. The functional megaspore is with a single haploid nucleus. Now we know that this functional megaspore, by 3 consecutive mitosis division, ultimately converted into the embryo sac. So this one is a angiospermic embryo sac. This one is an angiospermic embryo sac where these three are the antipodal cells. This one is a central cell, and you know that these are the synergids, and this one is a egg. So the correct answer will be the functional megaspore in angiosperm developed into, there is a embryo sac. We know that the embryo sac is a haploid structure because all the cells which is present inside the embryo sac all are haploid in nature. There is only an exception that these 2 nuclei are the polar nuclei. Apart from these polar nuclei, all these are the cells are the haploid cells. Fine? Clear? So, next move to our next question. Now, this particular question is from the part, that's the last part, that's the pollution. Fine. Now, here it is written that the snow blindness is due to, okay, what is snow blindness? This is a very devastative, or this is a very bad effect of ozone pollution. We know that due to several reasons, we know that there are some ozone holes are created on the ozone layer, and through that particular ozone hole, very deadly UV radiation is coming from the atmosphere to our earth. And due to that UVB radiation, what will happen? Our cornea get inflamed. And if the cornea get inflamed, then this particular condition is known as a snow blindness. So the correct answer will be that the snow blindness is due to the inflammation of cornea due to high dose of UVB radiation. This one is the correct answer. Okay. So next, move to our next part. Now this question is from the chapter, that is the plant growth and development. Plant growth and development. Here it is written that which of the following is responsible for the synthesis of enzyme in early seed production. That means, which of the following enzymes is responsible for the seed production. Okay, so the correct answer will be, that's the gibberellin. Gibberellin is involved in, that's the early seed production. This is an informative type of question. That's the gibberellin, or we can say that's the most available gibberellin which is used, that the gibberellic acid 3. This is a GA3. Okay. Now, moving to the last question of the section A, that the plasma membrane consists of mainly, fine, this is a question from the chapter, the cell, the unit of life. The plasma membrane mainly consists of the phospholipid embedded in the protein bilayer, the proteins embedded in the phospholipid bilayer, the proteins embedded in the polymer of glucose molecules, and the proteins embedded in the carbohydrate bilayer. We know that the plasma membrane or we can say it is a biological membrane. Okay. Now the most appropriate or most widely accepted model for explaining the structure of the plasma membrane is a fluid mosaic model, which is proposed by Singer and Nicholson. Fine. So according to the fluid mosaic model, we can say that the protein molecules are completely embedded in the sea of phospholipid bilayer. In the sea of phospholipid bilayer. Very much similar like that's the icebergs. We know that the icebergs are floating on the sea. Similarly like that, let's assume this is a sea of phospholipids. These are the lipid molecules. These are the sea of the phospholipids. These are the lipid molecules. And all the protein molecules are partially or completely, all the protein molecules are partially or completely embedded in the phospholipid, like this manner. These are the protein molecules And not only that, these are also the protein molecules. Now we know that this type of protein molecules are known as intrinsic proteins, and this type of proteins are known as extrinsic proteins. So the correct answer will be that the proteins are embedded in the phospholipid bilayer. These are the phospholipid bilayer. Okay, so the correct answer is option 2. So this is the end of the first part, that is the section A. Now we will move to the next part, that is the section B. Okay.